Here's an uncomfortable truth nobody really wants to say out loud. Most people over 35 are spending their money wrong. It's because nobody ever actually taught them how spending habits change. Once life gets more complicated, you've probably built something real by now. A career, maybe a house, maybe a family. But somewhere in the middle of all that progress, your income went up, sure, but so did everything else. Right now, according to Federal Reserve data, nearly 40% of people earning over $100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. Read that again. 6 figures, paycheck to paycheck. That's not bad luck, that's a pattern, and patterns can be broken. Over the next 40 minutes, we're going to break down 5 specific spending mistakes that quietly drain people over 35 every single month. Mistakes that feel completely normal, even responsible, while they're happening. You'll see the exact moment spending habits usually go sideways, the excuses your brain uses to justify purchases it really shouldn't be making, and then, this isn't about deprivation, this is about awareness, about finally seeing the game you're actually playing instead of playing it blind. Because here's the thing about money after 35. It doesn't disappear all at once, it leaks, slowly, quietly. A subscription here, an upgrade there, a dinner you didn't really need. By the end of this video, you're going to recognize every single leak in your own life. And more importantly, you're going to know exactly how to plug them. So if you've ever stared at your bank account feeling genuinely confused about where an entire paycheck went, stick around, because mistake number 4 is the one almost everybody makes. And stick around for the end too, because the fix is a lot simpler than you probably think it is right now. And it doesn't involve giving up a single thing you actually love spending money on. Let's get into it. Nobody sits down one day and decides to start overspending. That's the part everybody misses. It never happens in one dramatic moment. It happens gradually, so gradually you barely feel it moving. Think about where you were at 25. Maybe splitting rent with a roommate, driving a car with a few dents in it, thinking twice before ordering delivery. Now think about where you are today. The apartment became a house. The roommate became a family. The dented car became something newer, something nicer, something with heated seats you didn't know you needed until you had them. None of that is wrong on its own. Growth is normal, and honestly, it's earned. But here's what nobody warns you about. Your spending baseline grows just as fast as your income does, and most of the time, it grows without permission. Take Dave, 44, works logistics just outside Columbus. Dave got 3 promotions over 8 years. Dave also somehow ended up with less in savings than he had after the very first one. When we looked at his spending, nothing looked crazy. No big blow-ups, no wild purchases. Just more. A slightly nicer car payment, a slightly bigger house, slightly better everything, stacked on top of each other, quietly, year after year. That's lifestyle creep, and researchers sometimes call it silent inflation for a reason. It's silent. It doesn't announce itself. There's no receipt that says, "Warning, your standard of living just permanently increased." It just happens, expense by expense. Until one day you're earning 20% more than you did 5 years ago, and somehow saving the exact same amount, or less. Part of this is psychological. When money arrives, your brain treats it as safe to spend, especially if it arrived through hard work. A promotion feels like permission. A bonus feels like a reward you've already earned. And family life adds its own layer entirely. Kids get more expensive as they get older, not less. Activities, school costs, healthcare, all of it creeps upward right alongside your paycheck, so the extra income gets absorbed before it ever really lands. The real danger isn't any single purchase. It's that this shift happens below your conscious radar. You just wake up one day at 42. That's exactly the pattern we're about to take apart, piece by piece. There's actually a name researchers use for this. They call it hedonic adaptation. That bigger house stops feeling spacious and starts feeling, somehow, the upgrade never actually satisfies for long, so the brain quietly starts hunting for the next one, and the next one after that. This is precisely why some people earning $80,000 a year feel completely secure and relaxed, while other people earning $200,000 a year feel like they're barely hanging on. Income explains almost none of that difference. The gap between income and baseline spending explains almost all of it. Mistake number 1, and honestly the root of most of the others. Simply put, spending more just because you're earning more, without ever consciously deciding to. Here's how it actually plays out. You get a raise, salary jumps from $55,000 to $70,000. 12 months later, you check the savings account, and somehow, the exact same $2,000 is sitting there that was sitting there before the raise. Where did the extra $15,000 go? Nobody can point to one purchase. It went everywhere, and nowhere, $5 at a time. This is the trap. Lifestyle inflation rarely shows up as one big decision. It shows up as dozens of small, acceptable upgrades that each feel completely reasonable in isolation. A slightly better apartment, because you can finally afford it. A nicer car, because your old one felt beneath your new title. Dining out twice a week instead of once because, well, you've earned it. You're busy. You deserve a break. Individually, every single one of these choices is defensible. Together, compare your savings rate today to your savings rate 5 years ago. If you're earning 20% more, but saving the same percentage, or less, and the wild part is, this pattern shows up at every income level. High earners fall into it just as often, sometimes worse. The fix isn't refusing every upgrade forever. That's not realistic, and honestly, not necessary. The fix is making the upgrade a decision instead of a default. When a raise or bonus lands, before your spending adjusts on its own, automate that piece immediately, before your lifestyle has a chance to expand and claim it. Some people call this paying yourself first. Whatever you call it, the principle is identical. Growth should build your net worth, not just your monthly expenses. Because if every single raise gets absorbed into slightly nicer everything, there's a simple metric worth actually calculating for yourself tonight. If that number keeps climbing every time you check it, your lifestyle is expanding faster than your income can comfortably support it. Catching this early matters once. Once a certain standard of living becomes normal, family, expectations, and your own sense of identity all quietly resist scaling it back down. That's exactly why the moment right after a raise, the very first few weeks, is the highest leverage moment you'll get. Decide then, deliberately, or your spending will quietly decide for you. It costs nothing to make that decision on purpose, and it's genuinely the highest return 5 minutes you'll spend all year, sitting down right after good financial news lands and deciding, in writing if you can, exactly where the extra money is going before your daily life quietly decides for you instead. Mistake number 2 sounds almost noble on the surface. I've worked hard. I deserve this. And look, that instinct isn't wrong. You have worked hard. The problem isn't the sentiment. It's how often it gets used as a justification for purchases that have nothing to do with actual enjoyment and everything to do with proving something to yourself. Think about the last time you told yourself you earned a purchase. Was it after a genuinely great week? Or was it actually after a stressful one, a long one, a week where you felt underappreciated, exhausted, invisible? That's the tell. Reward spending, real, healthy reward spending, tends to follow accomplishment. But earned it spending, the kind that quietly drains your account, it's less a celebration and more a form of emotional first aid. And first aid that costs money doesn't actually heal anything, it just distracts for a moment. Here's a story that plays out constantly. Someone has a brutal quarter at work, deadlines stacked on deadlines, Friday hits, and almost on autopilot. There's a new watch in the cart, or a weekend trip gets booked, or dinner becomes the expensive place instead of the usual one. It feels good for about 6 hours. Then Monday comes back around. The underlying stress is still there, completely untouched. The deeper issue is that this pattern trains your brain to associate hard work with spending as the payoff, instead of associating hard work with actual rest or actual accomplishment. Over years, that wiring gets expensive because life will always hand you a reason to feel like you've earned something. There is always a hard week. There is always a stressful month. If every single one of them gets a purchase attached to it, the purchases never stop coming. This doesn't mean never treating yourself. That would be miserable and unsustainable. It means separating the emotion from the transaction before you act on it. When the urge hits, ask one honest question. Am I buying this because I genuinely want it? Half the time, just naming that difference out loud is enough to make the urge disappear entirely. It also helps to notice the timing of these purchases. Late at night, after a hard day, scrolling with the phone 6 inches from your face. That's not a coincidence. That's decision fatigue, a well-documented psychological effect where willpower genuinely depletes over the course of a long day. Some people build a simple rule around this exact pattern. No non-essential purchases after 9 at night. Full stop. No exceptions. It sounds almost too simple to matter, and yet for a lot of people it single-handedly eliminates the majority of their earned-it purchases, just by removing decisions from the exact hour they're worst equipped to make them. Mistake number 3 is the quiet one. Small recurring costs, subscriptions, memberships. Recent research found the average American now spends around $219 a month on subscriptions, across roughly 8 active services. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. When people are asked to estimate their own subscription spending, the average guess comes in around $86. That's less than half of reality. Not because people are lying, small enough individually to never trigger alarm, a streaming service here, a meal kit there, a gym membership you loved in January and haven't thought about since March, cloud storage you don't remember signing up for. None of these purchases ever felt like a decision at the time you're paying for them now. That's exactly the point, and exactly the danger. Take Rachel, 39, marketing manager, 2 kids. When she finally sat down and listed every single recurring charge hitting her accounts, she found 14 separate subscriptions. 14. The other 8 had just become invisible. Background noise. Added up, $300 a month is $3,600 a year, disappearing without a single conscious purchase decision behind it. That's a vacation. That's a meaningful dent in credit card debt. That's real money for something Rachel would have actually chosen. The fix here is almost embarrassingly simple. Once a quarter, pull up every recurring charge on your statements and read them out loud. If you can't remember using it in the past 30 days, or you hesitate even slightly on whether it's worth it, that's your answer. Cancel it. This audit takes maybe 20 minutes, 4 times a year, and for most people over 35, it's also worth noticing why these charges are so easy to forget in the first place. Because that's by design, not by accident. Vague merchant names on your statement rarely announce what they actually are. Billing dates are staggered on purpose across the month, specifically so the total never lands in front of you all at once, and free trials are engineered to convert automatically into paid plans unless you actively remember to cancel within a narrow window. None of this is your fault personally. It's simply how the subscription economy, now worth well over $500 billion globally, knowing that it's designed this way, is exactly why the quarterly audit matters so much. Because it puts you back in control of decisions that were quietly being made for you by default. Set a recurring reminder right now, today, for the first Saturday morning of January, April, July, and October, 10 minutes with coffee, statement open. Nothing more complicated than that, and you'll likely never carry more than a couple $100s a year in true dead weight ever again. Mistake number 4 is the one almost everybody makes, and almost nobody wants to admit to, because it doesn't feel like a financial decision at all. It feels like just living your life, spending to keep pace with the people around you. Your neighbor gets a new SUV, a coworker mentions a kitchen renovation, and your kitchen, a friend posts vacation photos from somewhere expensive. This is comparison spending, and after 35 it gets sharper, not softer, because now the comparisons aren't just about stuff, they're about status, about whether you look like you're keeping up with people your own age who seem to have it more figured out than you do. Here's what makes it so dangerous. You're almost never comparing your full financial picture to theirs. You're comparing your visible reality to their curated highlight reel. You don't see their credit card balance. You don't see the loan on that SUV. You don't see the arguments about money happening behind that beautifully renovated kitchen. You just see the result, and your brain quietly concludes that you're falling behind, even when you have absolutely no evidence that you actually are. Social media didn't invent this instinct, but it absolutely supercharged it. A constant, algorithm-fed stream of other people's best financial moments, that comparison is rigged from the start. The people who escape this trap aren't the ones who stop noticing what others have. When you know exactly what you're building toward, a paid-off house, an early retirement, a specific number in an investment account, another person's new car just becomes information about their life. That shift alone, just building your own clear target. It also helps to remember something almost nobody says out loud. The people you're comparing yourself to are very often comparing themselves to somebody else entirely. The comparison chain never actually ends anywhere. There's always a bigger house, a nicer trip, a more impressive title one rung further up. The only way off that particular treadmill is stepping outside it entirely and measuring your progress against your own numbers from a year ago instead. Try this simple experiment for 1 month. Mute or unfollow the accounts that most reliably trigger that falling behind feeling. And notice, honestly, for almost everyone who tries it, the answer is no. And the sense of relief shows up faster than expected. Mistake number 5 is the one that hides behind the word convenience, which sounds harmless, even smart, right up until you actually add up what it's costing you. After 35, life gets genuinely busy. Work, kids, aging parents, so convenience starts to feel less like a luxury and more like a survival tool, and paying a premium for it starts to feel completely justified. Food delivery is the clearest example. Research on delivery pricing found that ordering through a delivery app typically adds close to 70% on top of what the exact same meal would cost walking into the restaurant. Once you count service fees, delivery charges, and the quiet menu markup, most people never notice. One dinner like that? Fine. No real damage done. 3 times a week, every week, for a year, and you've spent an entire extra restaurant's worth of money on markup alone, not food. Just the convenience wrapped around the food. It's not only delivery, it's the premium parking spot instead of walking 2 extra minutes. It's the express version of a service instead of the standard one. Every one of these micro decisions is individually reasonable. Genuinely, nobody's judging you for being tired and wanting things to be easy. The problem is the pattern, not any single choice inside it. Convenience spending is sneaky because it rarely feels like spending at all. It feels like problem solving, and problem solving feels responsible. The goal isn't eliminating convenience from your life. That's not realistic and honestly not desirable either. The goal is choosing it on purpose instead of by default. A useful test: before paying a convenience premium, ask whether you'd make the exact same choice if you had to hand over the extra cash in cash. If the answer's still yes, great. If the answer's actually no, that's usually your gut telling you the premium isn't really about saving time at all. There's also a useful question hiding underneath all of this. Sometimes the honest answer is genuinely worth it. An extra 30 minutes with your kids before bedtime is worth real money to almost anyone. But sometimes the honest answer is that you're just avoiding a mildly annoying 5-minute task. The difference between those two scenarios is enormous over the course of a year. Getting specific about which one is actually happening, out loud, even just once a week, quietly turns convenience from an invisible leak into a deliberate, occasionally very reasonable. Try tracking just 1 week of every convenience premium you pay, every fee, every markup, every upgrade to skip a small inconvenience. Most people are genuinely stunned by the number, not because any single charge was unreasonable, but because they'd never actually seen the total in one place before. Because none of this is about one dinner or one subscription, it's about what happens when these patterns run quietly in the background for 10, 20, 30 years, compounding the entire time. Let's run an actual number. Imagine a $10,000 raise, just one, spread across a single year. If that raise gets fully absorbed into lifestyle inflation, the way it does for most people, it bought a slightly nicer life for a decade and then vanished completely. Now imagine that same raise, with half of it, just half, 10 years later. Save the entire raise instead of half, and you're looking at close to $138,000 from a single decade of one disciplined decision. Same raise, same person, same career. Two completely different financial futures, and the only variable that changed was awareness. Now stretch that same logic across everything we've covered. The $300 a month in forgotten subscriptions, invested instead of leaked, over 20 years, compounds into real six-figure money. Quietly. The convenience premiums, the keeping up with the neighbor's purchases. But money doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about where it actually goes. And where it goes, this is exactly why people who look financially comfortable on the outside can be quietly stressed on the inside, and why people with modest, ordinary incomes sometimes end up with real, substantial wealth. It was never really about how much came in. It was about how much of it was allowed to just quietly leak out along the way. Compounding is a strange force because it does absolutely nothing for a long time. Nothing visible anyway. And then it does everything all at once, usually right around the decade mark. The first few years of any of these fixes look almost disappointing. A few $100s redirected here, a subscription canceled there. But that early, unimpressive stretch is precisely when the foundation gets built. Quietly, by year 15 or 20, the exact same small monthly habit has grown into something genuinely life-changing. A paid-off mortgage years early, a retirement that actually arrives on schedule, instead of getting pushed back another 5 years. None of that shows up immediately. The math was working the entire time. That's the entire case for starting tonight instead of someday. Because every year you wait is a year compounding doesn't get to work on your behalf. And that's a year you genuinely never get back. It's almost never willpower, it's a small handful of specific, almost boring behaviors repeated consistently without much drama attached to them at all. First, they save automatically, not manually. The moment income arrives, a percentage moves to savings and investments before it ever touches a checking account, and literally never see that money as spendable, so they never miss it, and willpower is completely removed from the equation entirely. Second, they save a percentage, not a fixed dollar amount. Tying savings to a percentage means every single raise automatically increases the amount being protected, without a single extra decision required. Third, they build in a waiting period before lifestyle upgrades. Not forever, just a deliberate pause, often somewhere around 3 to 6 months after a raise or bonus lands. That gap is enough time for the initial excitement to fade and genuine priorities to surface instead. Fourth, they track recurring versus one-time spending completely separately. A celebration dinner is fine, genuinely fine, it's a single event. A recurring $200 a month dining upgrade that quietly becomes the new normal is a completely different animal, because it compounds for years, not once. Fifth, and maybe most importantly, they treat money with intention instead of emotion. Purchases get evaluated against actual stated goals, not against how the day happened to feel. None of these 5 habits require a finance degree. None of them require earning dramatically more money than you currently do. They require exactly one thing: deciding in advance how money moves, instead of deciding in the moment, tired, stressed, or scrolling, when your judgment is honestly at its absolute worst. That's the entire difference, played out quietly, month after month, for decades. There's one more habit worth mentioning, because it rarely gets talked about, and it's simply reviewing the numbers on a regular schedule, without judgment, not obsessively, not anxiously, just a calm, consistent glance at where things stand. This single habit does something subtle but powerful. It keeps money visible. People who build real wealth over time aren't usually the ones staring at spreadsheets every single night. They're simply the ones who never let their own numbers become a stranger to them for more than a few weeks at a time. There's also a subtle mindset difference worth naming directly. Financially comfortable people over 35 generally view money as a tool for building the life they actually want. That single reframe changes almost every decision downstream of it, from how they handle a raise to how they respond to a friend's flashy new purchase. Quietly, consistently, without ever needing to announce it to a single other person. If you take exactly one idea away from this entire video, let it be this one, because it genuinely fixes most of what we just spent the last half hour breaking down. Stop spending on autopilot and start spending with intention. It responds to a stressful week, a bored Sunday afternoon. It happens to you, quietly, dozens of times a week, and by the time you notice the pattern, the money's already gone, and it's already happened again 100 times before you caught it even once. Intentional spending flips that entire relationship. Before intentional spending, before a purchase actually happens, there's a pause. Does this genuinely move me toward the life I'm actually trying to build? Or is this just filling a moment I don't want to sit in? That's it. That's the whole shift. It's not a budget. It's not a spreadsheet, lame. It's a single habit of pausing before money moves. Instead of only noticing where it went after the fact, people who make this shift don't necessarily spend less overall, and that surprises a lot of people the first time they hear it. They often spend roughly the same amount. What changes is where the money goes. It stops leaking into forgotten subscriptions and convenience premiums and comparison purchases, and it starts flowing toward things that actually matter, actual goals, actual experiences, actual security for the people depending on you. The money was never really the problem in the first place. The autopilot was the problem all along. Turn that off, even partially, even imperfectly, and everything else in this video gets dramatically easier to actually put into practice, starting with the next 5 purchases you're about to make. It helps to think of it almost like driving. Autopilot spending is like driving somewhere on a route you've done 1,000 times. Intentional spending is choosing the destination first, on purpose, and then noticing the road along the way, still moving at the same speed, still getting where you're going, just fully present for the decisions happening in between. Nobody does this perfectly, and you shouldn't expect to either. The goal was never a flawless record of intentional purchases forever. The goal is simply catching yourself on autopilot more often than you used to, gently steering back, and letting that small correction compound the exact same way money does, quietly, consistently, over a very long stretch of time. All right, let's make this completely practical. Here are 5 simple, low-friction steps you can start literally tonight, none of which require a finance degree or a complicated spreadsheet. Step 1. Do the 20-minute subscription audit we talked about earlier. Open your bank statement. List every recurring charge. Most people find at least $100 a month hiding in there. Step 2. Automate a percentage, not a dollar amount. Start small if you have to, even 5%, and increase it slightly every time you get a raise, before your lifestyle has a chance to claim that money first. Step 3. Install a personal waiting period for upgrades. That short gap alone eliminates an enormous percentage of impulse and emotional purchases. Step 4. Separate your reward spending from your stress spending. On purpose. Out loud if you have to. Before a purchase, ask yourself honestly which one this actually is. If it's stress relief disguised as a reward, try replacing it, even once, with something that doesn't cost money. A walk, a phone call to a friend. Step 5. Write down one specific financial goal, with an actual number and an actual date attached to it, and put it somewhere you'll physically see it, your phone lock screen. That single visible goal becomes your filter for every future purchase decision, quietly doing the mental work so you don't have to reinvent your reasoning every single time temptation shows up. None of these 5 steps requires earning more money. They require exactly one thing: doing them consistently, starting today, not next Monday. If 5 steps feels like too much to start all at once, and for a lot of people it genuinely does, just pick one, the single one that made you wince slightly while you were watching this video. Financial change works a lot like physical change in that respect. Trying to overhaul everything simultaneously usually collapses within a couple of weeks, while one small, boring, consistent habit, repeated daily without much drama attached to it, tends to actually stick. And if you slip, and you will, everyone does, notice it, adjust, and keep going. Because consistency over years beats perfection over weeks, every single time. without exception. Let's bring it all together. 5 quiet mistakes are draining people over 35 every single month. Lifestyle inflation. Spending more the second you earn more. Earned it. Spending. Ignored recurring costs. Keeping up with peers. And convenience premiums. None of these mistakes make you careless or bad with money. They make you completely normal. Because almost everyone falls into every single one of them at some point, what actually separates people who fix this from people who don't isn't income, it's awareness, followed by a handful of small, boring, repeatable habits. It genuinely is not too late to change any of this. The most expensive mistake isn't any single one of the 5 we covered. It's assuming the moment to fix it has already passed you by. It hasn't. If this video actually helped you see your own spending a little more clearly, do us a favor and drop a comment telling us which mistake hit closest to home. And if you want more videos exactly like this one, breaking down real money behavior without the jargon and without the judgment. Thanks for spending 40 minutes with us. Now go take a real look at your own spending tonight. One more thing before you go. None of this is about becoming someone who never enjoys their money. It's about making sure the money you work this hard for is actually going toward things you'd choose on purpose. Wide awake, fully present. You have more control over this than it probably feels like right now. Small, boring, consistent decisions, repeated for years, are genuinely how real financial security gets built. For completely ordinary people, there's no dramatic finish line here. Just one better decision, then another one after it, then another, starting now. Take care of yourself, take care of the people counting on you, and we'll see you in the next one.